It's great to have everybody back on the show. Thank you all for listening, watching our Periscope. Gives me all those warm, fuzzy feelings inside. Honestly, I need right now because I'm just gonna jump straight to the realness. March has been rough. March was a hard time for me. I was working really hard, all these coaches clinics, which was great. I had a lot of people learn how to really coach football the correct way, the way they need to correct. Is the whole point of me being me, is to teach people how football is supposed to actually be played so that I can be challenged slightly when I'm coaching football. Because honestly, I'm at a point now where I'm already pretty drunk before I even start coaching the game. And by the end of the game, by the time I've kind of sobered up a little bit, because I've learned alcohol does not squirt well out of a Gatorade bottle. And honestly, it makes you a little sad by the end, just running people and beating them so bad they can't even... I mean, the other day I was playing somebody, it's just at 2K, but I beat him so bad that I heard them slam their fist into their television and break it. I'm trying to make us all better people. That's why I'm doing the podcast, is to help us become better people. And honestly, there are some people who need it. But like I was saying, March was real rough on me. I had a really hard March. I wasn't home much. Was in California for most of the time and a couple other places doing coaches clinics. Was in Nevada for a period, unfortunately, trying to get them prepared for the NCAA tournament. Gave them a little speech. Honestly, though, what do you expect with one little speech? That's not going to do much. I really should have stuck around longer and done some coaching and some drills and things like that. I think a little punt return with no fair catch would have really helped out the Morton twins and just made that team a lot tougher. Because Nevada apparently was a lot softer than I was led to believe. Again, it's just Southern California, but it's not North Georgia. It's not, the air's a little bit, full of weed, which I got nothing against weed, but after a little while, that smell kind of gets a little boring. You're like, all I ever smell, the wind blows from any direction, that's all you smell. And you're kind of like, could I get something else? In North Georgia, you'll smell a little weed when you walk by somebody's apartment. Then you'll, be walking down the road and there'll be some wind that hits you and you smell, flowers or coffee or horse crap. Sometimes when I was in Southern California, I missed the smell of horse crap. Honestly, I thought about driving out and just getting off as far as I could go to be able to find that's home to me. Home is in the horse crap sometimes. And that's North Georgia is amazing and it is not horse crap. Please do not misunderstand me. I love North Georgia. That is my home forever. That is my forever home. However, that smell of horse crap really does it gets me right back in the place. But I lost at the ISA Awards by just a couple of heartbreaking, even though I give myself the victory because a 90-year-old man didn't even show up. What else does he have to do at this point in his life? Like, he could at least show up to the award. So I for sure won the red carpet award. No question about that. I dominated the red carpet. And honestly, to hear other people like someone a little bit more than you, that doesn't happen much in my life. Plus, jet lag has really messed me up. That trip just wore me out. I'm tired, folks. Today's podcast is going to be a little shorter than normal just because I'm a little worn out and I've got to get, reset, readjusted back here so I can prepare for the next season. I got a lot of work with Jordo I got to get to. we got a lot of conditioning to do. Y'all saw him a couple weeks ago in the Periscope, and we have got to get in shape because clearly in his off-season period, I should have really locked him down and controlled his diet and exercise routine a lot more. It is what it is. I can't rule Jordo's life, even though I should. Honestly, if you're a coach and you're not controlling most of it, it's really disappointing. But I'm here. I am going to share with you all my thoughts here on the last weekend in sports. So here's my Letterman's thoughts on sports this week. This is Letterman's thoughts on sports and other stuff. So, the biggest news this weekend, Tiger wins the Masters again. Honestly, that's the comeback story, possibly of this decade. We're getting close to the end of the teens, and there's been a better story than Tiger Woods coming from not being able to do. I mean, the man was basically paralyzed in pain. His back was so damaged that he couldn't even sit in a chair. Listen, I've been hurt before. I mean, things have ached on my body before, but I've always been able to sit down in a chair. Tiger couldn't even sit down in a chair. It hurt him so bad. Like 2 years ago, he was having another spinal surgery because it just hurt him so bad. And from that to be able to win the Masters, I mean, put on a green jacket, which, as impressive as a green jacket is, it is not as impressive as a Letterman jacket. And a green Letterman jacket is pretty impressive. I like baby blue a little more, but if the Masters gave out Letterman jackets, I would respect them a little bit more, honestly. However, Tiger, you went out there and played like a champion. You played like yourself for the first time in years. I mean, been 11 years since you won a tournament. 14 since you won the Masters. I will tell you this, Tiger Woods is really an influencer in my life. He has defined how I dress. He has defined now how I play golf, partially how I coach. When Tiger first won the Masters, he was so young and drove the ball so well that they moved the tee boxes back. Basically, they Tiger-proofed Augusta National. And I got to be honest with you, that's my goal in youth football, is that they have to change the field itself because of the way that I have influenced the game. That football itself has to physically change the landscape that you have to play on because I am too dominant. That's what I'm really, that's a dream. Tiger Woods has now inspired me in one of my great goals in my life. And that's an impressive thing to do. Tiger, you've blessed me. And I'd like to say thank you for the many different lessons and things you have taught me over my life. That being said, golf is a weak sport, so maybe you could play a real sport like football or even water polo is more real than golf. I'm just saying, Tiger, you are playing the most leisurely of sports to have issues with, so the comeback story is lessened a little bit because, it's golf. And I know every time you swung the club, it was like a small car accident. I talked about that a little bit in the Periscope, but honestly, car accidents aren't that bad. Like, you get hit, things explode around you and airbags and all that stuff, and then you kind of walk out, you're like, I'm fine, no big deal. I've been in like 12 different car wrecks already in my life, 3 this year, and I'm pretty fine. So, I don't know. A little bit of it's taken down that way, but it's easily better than the Virginia comeback story, because honestly, that's basketball. You shouldn't have lost to a 16 seed. Like, that's just embarrassing. And then you win the championship and all that stuff. We talked about it last week. It was a weak story that ESPN wanted to run with, and the SEC deep state forced upon us as consumer. Other news, Magic Johnson kind of going Game of Thrones and just messing the Lakers up so bad. He left LA like I left my last girlfriend, which is destitute. He just said, see ya, in the middle of, probably the most difficult time in Los Angeles basketball history. There was a lot of period where like Kobe had retired and they didn't know where they were going to go. But then they got a superstar and they're like, hey, we finally got our superstar. We can get back to the playoffs. And it did not happen. Now, I will say, clearly Magic was like, hey, in our history, the thing that's made us great is one good-ish guard player like a Kobe Bryant, or now, they're like LeBron James, or even himself as in Magic Johnson. And then, a semi-crappy, overrated post player like, Kareem or Shaq or JaVale McGee. Those guys are pretty much all on the same playing field. So I think Magic was really just using the formula that he had grown up seeing. But honestly, that is not a good formula to use. I blame coaching as well. Luke Walton, he's a fine coach. The Kings have jumped on him real quick. That's pretty interesting. It's also very Game of Thrones for him to, have lost and go and team up with somebody else just down the road real quick. I like the power moves that Rob Pelinka's trying to do. It's really interesting. He's trying really to save his job and his career at this point because, he's Kobe's agent, which means you didn't really have to do much but be like, hey, he's Kobe Bryant, pay him. And now you're like, wait, I got to figure out how to find actual talent. Last time I just got lucky. Luck does run out at some point, and sometimes you are supposed to have talent, and Rob Pelinka does not. So I'm just going to be honest with you, folks. The Lakers are looking really bad. They're going to have a long road ahead of them, and Magic Johnson did that to them. And I will say this. I do not like the way he left. Crying and in tears and all that. Weak move. That is weakness personified. Now, I've always known Magic Johnson was weak, but this proved it. This proved he is just a weak man who is lazy and doesn't want to do the work needed to do the job he signed up to do. What else happened this weekend? We had the Masters, Magic left, a couple of spring games in the SEC. Tennessee looks like garbage. I was really worried, honestly. Chaney leaving. I mentored Chaney for a little while. He was down in Georgia, and I thought for sure he's going to be able to go up and turn that team around. But yeah, not so worried anymore. I figured him and Pork Chop on the same team were really going to cause me some nightmares when they were going to have to come down and play Georgia. But the spring game pretty much eased my mind completely in that case because, well, they're not anything. So, I mean, their number one defense didn't get any turnovers, and their number two defense got like 3. So they're weak. There's a couple other spring games here and there I watched. Honestly, we're gonna run the SEC East, guys. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're gonna dominate the East just like we have in the last several years. Yeah, I'm not worried at all. I really am not. Listen, people, if you got baseball problems, if you're having some hitting issues, I'm so good. I can give you just words through a microphone, and it makes you better. That's how great of a hitting coach I am. If you don't believe me, ask Chris Davis. Ask him, because clearly it is my ability that made him great. It is my coaching ability that made him be able to help beat the Red Sox. Chris Davis, you are welcome. Thank you for listening to my podcast, Chris Davis. I didn't realize you were a fan, but it's a good thing you are, because listen, the day my podcast came out, that night, you went out and hit 4 hits. You had 4 hits in a single game and helped them beat the Red Sox, who just won the World Series. I mean, clearly, that was because of me. I gave you the advice you needed. You were 0-54, and then you got a hit. And you got another hit and another hit and another hit. And you've gotten out of that slump, and I absolutely take credit for it. That is 100% because of me. So, Boston, suck it. Baltimore, you're welcome. Today, NFL teams reported for strength and conditioning. I told you all that, I was going to do some draft stuff. We'll do that just a little bit here in a bit. Again, next week we're going to really go in depth, right? Because we're leading up to the actual draft next week. So I don't have everything quite done yet. But next week I'll have my full thoughts broken down and prepared for everyone. NFL teams reported today for conditioning and strength and stuff like that. I don't really love the idea of professionals needing to show up to get conditioned. Like, if you can't go and condition yourself while you're getting paid millions of dollars, you probably don't deserve millions of dollars to be an athlete. Because I condition myself and I make $31.11 plus bennies. I'm not making millions of dollars a day to be a good football player. And honestly, it's embarrassing that you have to be told to show up for conditioning, because you should be in pretty good damn shape, because you can afford to pay for any person to come in and train you. Honestly, some of you need me to come in and train you, truthfully. Julio Jones, okay? You need some real help, man. You have faded in the last couple years, and I would love, listen, you're just down the road in Atlanta, and I will absolutely come down there and whip your team into shape, Falcons. You are embarrassing to the state of Georgia sometimes. After that whole debacle in the Super Bowl, you all have just been a disappointment, which is sad because you're in the same state as me and Kirby Smart. And I put my name first for a reason. I am the best coach in this state. And all you have to do is just call me up, and I would come down and help you out in a heartbeat. I could bring my youth kids down there. My little league team would beat you all black and blue, and you would be better for it. You would learn what it's like to play a great team. I'm embarrassed by you, Falcons. You have to get conditioning. It's a sad day in the sports world for that. But it does mean the football is on its way, and that we are getting closer and closer and closer to that beautiful game that the Lord has created for us to play. And that is exciting. And if you don't think it is, you're an idiot. Just gonna be honest. You're a moron. That's most of what happened this last week in sports. I'm sure there were some other things that happened, like soccer-wise, but it's not a real sport, so I refuse to recognize it. Congratulations, Tiger Woods. You earned it. You deserved it. Baseball season's going well. Braves, we're doing pretty good. Keep hanging on. Keep playing good. Keep battling. That's one of the things I've recognized. Also, I will say this, Georgia baseball got swept this weekend. That was really embarrassing, especially because it happened to Tennessee. And, man, I just hate Tennessee. I hate them. That team. I'm not embarrassed by a lot of things in my life, but some of the Georgia sporting programs and the SEC deep state and what they have done to those programs is really embarrassing. And I think they just need a new athletic director, honestly, and I'm throwing my hat in the ring. Georgia, we need an athletic director who can get the other programs to the same caliber as the football program, and I think I'm the man to do that. I'm sure that I can. Number one, I will coach most of the sports, which will make us automatically better, but I just think, I'm really the right man for the job. So if you're a fan of this, tweet at the University of Georgia Athletic Department and, let them know Coach Letterman should be the athletic director. That's what I really deserve. That's what I'm built to do, those kind of things, to change the landscape of entire programs of sports. But those are my thoughts on sports. Now we're gonna, take a quick little break, bring you a quick commercial from our sponsor.
This is Gunter, your friendly neighborhood Gunter. I'm here to talk about Pumas, made from real Pumas. Are you tired of wearing overpriced shoes made by Kanye West and other celebrities not made from Pumas? Me too. It's like the thing I'm most worried about in this world. Shoes not made from Pumas. We only use the finest Pumas, killed from natural causes, car accidents, and sometimes infanticide. All Pumas are washed, clean, run through a rinse cycle, then skinned to make shoes. Beautiful shoes made from real Pumas that die from natural causes, car accidents, and sometimes infanticide. Pumas.
Pumas, made from real Pumas. Not all Pumas are killed by natural causes, car accidents, and sometimes infanticide.
Welcome back. I was going to get Newbert to come on here and tell one of his stories, but honestly, he's in Destin, Florida right now. He supposedly said he's going fishing. I'm pretty sure, though, he's actually in a Mexican cockfighting ring down there and is occupied by a couple of roosters that he's been training. Or cocks, I guess is how he'd prefer me to call them. He's been training a couple cocks in his backyard, and so I'm pretty sure that's what he's out doing. So he's occupied. So I thought I'd share a little story. I just got back, and one of my players wanted me to come down to their school. So I was down at the school the other day because Rat Tail, you all know my defensive tackle with the Rat Tail, he asked me to come and be his dad for career day. Rat Tail does have a father. He just happens to be a disappointment. I think he works at a bank or something. But now I knew me and this school were going to have problems as soon as I walked in, and they asked me to leave my fireball with a nurse. I did tell them that it was for medication. However, a quick, determined look and the threat of a lawsuit and a little bit of barking got me past real quick. Now, they didn't do me any favors, either with my openers. There was a chemist, and I think the other guy was a pastor or something. See, the thing I know from working with kids, and honestly I have this in common with them, is that we are very easily bored, and once we are, we will not pay attention to what's happening. So some people were standing up, they talked, and then they said my name, and I went up there. See, the thing I know from working with kids and I have this in common with them, is they are very easily bored. Kids are usually trying to think of cool shit like lasers and titties, not made up science, which is going to change in a few years anyways when they make up new discoveries. That's one thing I hate about scientists. They're always willing to change their minds. I mean, stick to your guns. Once in a while, why don't you? Like, honestly, science, quit changing your mind. You said this was a fact, and then you're like, well, actually, the fact is something different. Stick with something. So anyways, the teacher, Miss Frisdale, not hot if you're wondering, kind of musty, but so Frisdale leads me in. She goes, so Mr. Letterman, please explain to the class what it is that you do. Now, obviously, I could have spent a long period of time talking about my accomplishments as a youth football coach. However, what I actually wanted to do was share with them something that could not be shown in words, but had to be shown in video. That's why I had with me a clip of the Red Wedding, followed by a montage of apex predators. The fact that this was likely the first actual lesson any of these group of losers ever had received was a tragedy not lost on me, so I poured a shot of prescription and began to rectify that situation. I said, now kids, today I'm here to teach you about 10 American heroes like myself by the name of Tywin Lannister. He organized one of the greatest strategic moves in history, the Red Wedding, where he manipulated the House Frey into accepting House Stark as guests, expecting a marriage ceremony, and instead executed them in cold blood. Now, fortunately, one day you will leave the soft confines of this glorified daycare and face the harsh realities of life. And I'm not gonna lie, most of you will never let her in shit, and will face many disappointments. Specifically, this kid right here in front of me with the inhaler, yeah, that guy, you're still gonna be a failure, kid. But hope exists. Now, watch and learn. And I hit play, and the arrows flew, and the blood splattered. The teacher screamed. There was a kid who got so excited about what he saw that he ran across the room, picked up another kid, and body slammed him through his desk. I was thrilled. I could not have been more. There were girls screaming. The kid with the inhaler did start to hyperventilate, which absolutely made me excited. There was just glorious chaos that overran this room. In all of this, I just began to yell, see the glory, children. Understand what you could be if only your parents weren't failures. I will say though, the excitement was a little short-lived because unfortunately they went and got the security guards, who I'm pretty sure are friends with my nemesis Horatio, and came in and they pepper sprayed me right in the face. Now, I did get a couple good downfield blocks in before they were able to get that off, and as they carried me out, I yelled, remember the Red Wedding, children. This is your destiny. And I saw a couple of those kids' eyes through my blurry haze of pepper sprayed vision, and those children got it. They understood. I'll tell you this, we underestimate what children can understand and can cope with in their lives. And these kids, they understood and they got it. Like, they absolutely figured out what I was meaning for them. And I really felt like I changed people's lives that day. I changed America, and the way you start to change America is with the youth. And I believe these children will now have the opportunity to be better adults than their parents are, which will make America better. That's just a little story from this last week. It's like I said, I was trying to get Newbert on, but he's busy doing cockfighting, so here I am. Sharing my stories with you. That brings us to our second break, folks. We have one more segment after this where I'm going to talk just a short bit of NFL draft, since I told you that I would. Back to round 2 of the podcast. Round 3, what are we on? 3rd? Yeah, producers give me a 3 symbol. Thank you, St. Nicholas. We have St. Nicholas, the producer, back in the booth. So that's pretty exciting. He also shoots many of our podcast and Periscope things. So give a shout out to St. Nick whenever you get an opportunity. I do not know why we call him St. Nick. I have never seen him walk into a church before. However, that is why I agreed to work with him. It's because I had never seen him walk into a church before. So, worked out pretty well for what we got here. But I call him St. Nick. Again, I don't really know why, but that's just what we call him. His name's actually Dave, but, we call him St. Nick around here. So, that's just, that's what we do. But I told you I was going to talk about the NFL draft a little bit. And I'm just going to give you a little tidbit to excite your senses for what next week is going to be, which will be all draft all the time. It'll be quite exciting. But I just want to let you all know, I am proud of this year's draft class. I am. There are not a lot of Georgia players going to the draft this year, and honestly, the ones that are going are not the best Georgia players that we could send there, except for DeAndre Baker. He should have been the defensive player of the year. He is the best player in college football and was just underrated all around because of the SEC deep state. People value Nick Bosa a lot higher than him, and they're idiots. Honestly, Nick Bosa doesn't crack my top 20 of players. I will release a full top 50 of my players available that I believe is the real order of the draft and of players. But for now, I'm just going to let you all know this year alone, we have the most players who have decided to leave college early to come to the NFL. And I could not be more proud of that fact. I'm pretty sure it's a lot of me and the way that I was able to affect college football this last year by being more vocal on Twitter, more, my show, podcasts, periscopes, everything like that. I'm pretty sure the players have learned and seen, we need to stop being treated like slaves. We need to go out and earn the money we deserve by putting our bodies on the line. Listen, I love college sports. I love them. You know that I am a Bulldog at heart till the day that I die. I love the University of Georgia. I love the Bulldogs. I love college football. I love the SEC. All of that is incredible. But at the end of the day, these players do not get paid, and that is wrong. I pay my players. I pay my youth football players because they deserve it when we win. If we lose, they have to pay me. That's the system we have set up. That's why we don't lose very often. Kids have a high value for money, which is good because now they're learning economic values. Do you not understand? I'm changing America from the ground up, from youth to adult. I will change them. It starts by teaching them the value for money at a young age. So I play my players. College football should be paying players. They should. These players should get paid. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But I am proud that for this year, 135 early departures for the NFL is happening. Well done, players. You have recognized that college, number one, is unnecessary if you are good at sports. And honestly, is unnecessary anyway. You do not need college to make money. You do not need college to have a career. I mean, I'm making $31.11 an hour plus bennies with a cell phone. I did not have to finance multiple water beds. I just got a new one that has marine animals swimming around in it. And by marine animals, I do mean fish and eels and small little sea turtles because they're really cute. It's pretty adorable. But they're in my bed, and I didn't have to finance those, and I didn't even go to college. Do you not understand? College is unnecessary, folks. I've said it 1,000 times, and I will say it 12,000 more if I need to. College is unnecessary. These players have recognized it, and they're going to go and get themselves paid in the NFL. Now, I will say this. The NFL is significantly softer than the SEC. I mean, honestly, most people in the SEC go through a grind and put themselves through such a gauntlet that once they get to the NFL, they don't have a problem adapting. I mean, people like Roquan Smith, Peyton Manning, even back in his day. I mean, these guys jumped straight into the league. Eric Berry jumped straight into the league. Todd Gurley. Look, this last year, Sony Michel won the Super Bowl for the Patriots. I mean, he's the reason they had a successful postseason. He totally redefined what the Patriots were. Nick Chubb made the Browns talented. These guys played SEC schedules. They redefined what was needed for the NFL, and clearly they have been able to come in first year, be game changers. Alvin Kamara, first year, game changer. Why? He went through an SEC grind, went through that stuff, was prepared physically, mentally, emotionally to deal with playing All-Americans every single week and a whole team full. You know, you play in the Pac-12, you're going to play like one other All-American. That's why people are like, oh, these guys are so impressive. They didn't play anyone. Ed Oliver, people are like so impressed with Ed Oliver and Nick Bosa. Who did they play? Who was so tough that they had to play against that totally made them look incredible? Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins has played no one. He played 1 year in Ohio State, had a half-decent year, didn't even make the playoffs at all, and is an urban quarterback. I think that people highly highly overestimate any other player outside of the SEC because they are not playing the same kind of athlete that they're going to play in the NFL. Where in the SEC, you are playing the same kind of players continually that you will see in the NFL. That's why they translate a lot faster. Next week, I'm going to put out my full first round, what I believe is gonna happen. Not necessarily what I believe should happen, but what I believe will happen. What also mixed with what I think teams should do. Again, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of what will and what should. Because should is one total other thing, and oftentimes NFL teams don't do what they should do. That's why teams, don't make the playoffs. That's why teams have entire seasons where they're winless. That shouldn't happen because you should do what you need to do and win games. But teams don't always do that, and I understand. Sometimes teams are going to go out and they're going to draft non-SEC players because they don't need players to impact right away. And sometimes teams need SEC players because they're, really one player away. And I get that. I get the one player away mentality. I have lived that. That's why Jordo was such a big deal to get for me. That's why this year he's a major asset for me to get in the draft because I want that kind of player involved on my team. I think there's a lot of opportunities this year for the NFL to really see the quality that the SEC will bring to you. And the way that it'll change what you do in your franchise. I'm just going to give you all a little hint. I'm going to give you my top 5 players. Listen, I tried to go at this as unbiased as I possibly could. Out of SEC, out of Georgia, I really tried to put myself out of that and look at it just from a football analytics side. I watched tape of all these players. I watched hours and hours of game footage. I watched their workouts. I've read their different stats. And here it is. These are my top 5. So number 1, DeAndre Baker, cornerback for the University of Georgia. I don't feel like I need to explain. He's just the best player going into the draft this year. He's wildly underrated, and I don't understand why. But he's my number 1. Number 2, Josh Allen. A lot of people have him at number 2. I think that's a very fitting position for him to be. Now, most people have him at number 2 under like a Nick Bosa or a Kyler Murray, and that's just idiotic. Neither of those gentlemen could hang in an SEC schedule and will not play well and perform well in the NFL, where Josh Allen will absolutely translate very quickly into the NFL. Then I go Quintin Williams, number 3. Again, a lot of people have him there. I just think he's a very talented defensive lineman. He's big. He's slippery. That's a hard thing to teach. That's why we use canola oil and turpentine on a lot of our players on my team so they can really slip through holes quickly. We wash our jerseys and then we do not dry them. We play wet so that you can really get through holes a lot quicker and be a lot more slippery. But Quintin Williams has figured out a way to do that dry, and that's impressive. So that's why I have him at my number 3. And then number 4, I go Devon White, inside linebacker, LSU. He's a monster, and I hate it. I hate that he played at LSU. I hate that, unfortunately, he was coached by Ed Ogeron, who is just the most wasted space of a head coach you could ever find. The only reason LSU is good is because people want to play in the SEC, and he sounds funny. I really think people go there for the comedy of listening to him, because clearly Devon White was not coached by Ed Ogeron at all, did not need coaching by him. He's just that kind of physical freak. And if he had gone to a real head coach like say Kirby Smart, he would easily be the number 1 pick in the draft. But instead, he slides all the way to 4 because he chose to go to LSU and be coached by Ed Give Me Some Gumbo Ogeron. And number 5, again, another LSU player at Quintin Williams. Listen, a lot of people are really excited about DK Metcalf and how talented he is. Like I said, I watched a lot of game film, and in the Ole Miss LSU games where Greeny was matched up against DK, I think almost 90% of the time DK ended up on the ground and Greeny was just standing over him waiting for the ball not to be thrown his direction. If you're that excited about DK Metcalf that you want to put him on all that stuff, you have to at least have him below Quintin Williams, because Quintin Williams shut him down and owned him when LSU played Ole Miss. And honestly, I just find him impressive. I find Quintin impressive. I know he's not that fast, but speed is overrated when you have talent and you have the correct aim and you have the correct pressure and different things like that. As you can see, my top 5 is all defense, and they're all from the SEC. These are players who I believe the day you draft them can significantly change your team. Honestly, my first 20 are players like that. I will give you this little sneak hint. my top 20 players are all SEC players. They all are. I think my 20th player. Yeah, my top 19 players are all SEC. My 20th player is an ACC player from Clemson, but he's played a lot of other teams. Clemson has played a lot of SEC teams and has several games. Clellan Ferrell has played multiple games against Alabama and other SEC opponents, so they get a little bit of an SEC. It's kind of like Baker Mayfield, who I really liked last year coming in the draft because he had played so many SEC teams. He had almost been through an SEC grind while also being able to play in a system where, you know, he could take advantage of weaker teams. So when he went and played an SEC team, if he lost, it wouldn't damage him in his ability to win championships as much. It's kind of the cheap and the cheating way to do it, but I do have respect for that kind of decision making and that forethought to move that direction. But like I said, that's just a little hint of my top 50. And next week we'll go through the entire first round of the draft. Next week is going to be NFL draft, NFL draft, NFL draft. But yeah, those are my thoughts this week, folks. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Hope you can check it out. Hit up my Twitter. Go to YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Our podcasts are now going to be on Apple Podcasts. So if you subscribe there, listen that way. We'll be on Spotify. So subscribe there. Follow that. Check out more of our Periscopes. Again, we got an Instagram now. We are at official 3-year Letterman. So check that out. Again, at official 3-year Letterman. We are not the at 3-year Letterman, Kent Wisenhunt or whatever that you is. You are fake. You are trying to ride my curtails to fame, and I will not accept that. That is a weak way to get fame. I have worked hard for what I have. So, yeah, go like, subscribe, listen to our old podcasts if you haven't heard them. And, this week, try to be more like me, because that's what this podcast is all about, is you all trying to figure out how to be more like me. And, go Dogs. Row.